It took a while, but finally, sniping is relevant again. Black Ops tried to murder it, Modern Warfare 3 brought it back. Welcome to the L118A. Hello, I'm Raging Amish, and this is the L118A in Modern Warfare 3. I'm sure everyone has their personal opinion about the sniper rifles. Some love the guns more than anything else, while others could care less about their existence. Personally, I fall somewhere in the middle. This class of weaponry can truly be lethal in the proper hands. The L118A is a perfect example to show how to take advantage of the snipers. The gun has amazing strengths and yet awful, horrible weaknesses. So, let's get started. Available at level 4 as part of Create a Class, the gun is one of two bolt-action weapons in-game, the other being the MSR. When carrying the L118A, you chamber each round manually between shots, which hurts your overall fire rate. At max, you can put out 50 rounds a minute. For reference, that's less than one shot a second. You can't afford to miss your target because it'll be a while till you can pump out a follow-up shot. If you want to do well with the L118A, you had better learn how to aim.
You missed! How could you miss? It was 3 feet in front of you!
I can understand that sometimes you'll need a second or possibly a third shot to finish off the enemy, but if you find yourself doing this often, try a different sniper. The L118A rewards precision, and a good connection, but we'll touch more on this point later. By default, the 118 has a mag size of 5 rounds. On paper that looks bad, but honestly it's really not that big a deal. Since you can only shoot at 50 RPM, 5 rounds is plenty. As for your damage, the L118A clocks in at 98 per shot. However, that doesn't tell the whole story. If the rifle did 98 damage flat, then you'd never kill with just one bullet, assuming of course you're playing a core game type. The explanation lies in math, which I'm sure makes some of you shudder. As in previous games, the snipers get body multipliers. A shot to the head, neck, or chest gets a 50% damage boost. As for the stomach and crotch area, you get a 10% bonus. That may not seem like much, but it's still enough to get a one-hit kill by default. Finally, hitting a limb will do you very little good, as you get no bonus and will require 2 shots to kill. With the body multipliers in mind, I'll say it again. Precision is key with the L118. Do everything you can to kill with just one bullet.
The sniper dies for that one perfect shot.
As an added bonus to your potential one-hit kill, the L118 has no damage drop-off. Your bullet power up close is identical to your power at range. The only way to reduce your damage per shot is to pick the silencer, and we'll cover that when we get to set attachment. The unique stat sheet doesn't stop with the power and range. For starters, your movement speed is solid at 90%. You can play fast and on the move much like with an assault rifle. Granted, I wouldn't advise using the 118 in close quarter situations, but you do have speed on your side. As for your penetration power, it's high. Even without impact, you can shoot through obstacles quite effectively. Granted, you probably won't pull off one-hit kills, but you can definitely take out enemy equipment. Who knows? Maybe you'll get lucky and take out the occasional camper. The high overall bullet power does come at a price though. Your crosshairs are huge by default. I see some folks fire from the hip with the L118A, but believe me, you want to aim down the sight. As with most snipers, the idle sway is relatively high. By default, the L118 has a magnification of 4.8 times zoom. This is great, as you can pick off targets at long range, but at the same time, the high magnification also amplifies idle sway, thus making your shots difficult to place. I know 3 methods that help counter the natural sway. First, you can go prone, which greatly reduces the amount that your scope moves. Personally, I refuse to advise doing this out of principle. Going prone encourages careless and malicious placation and not gallivanting, or as you may know it, camping. Second, and I know this may seem somewhat obvious, you can press down on the left thumbstick to hold your breath for up to 4 seconds. Your crosshairs will stabilize and allow you time to place your shot. This can be a double-edged sword though. You're a sitting duck if you take too much time to aim. Third, you can mess with the stability proficiency. The crosshairs will move less when you aim down the sight. This makes placing your shots easier and really does make a difference. Use one or a mix of these methods and you should have success. From here on out though, the tone of the review is going to shift. Remember at the beginning when I said the L118 has extreme strengths and extreme weaknesses? Well, from here on out, I have mostly weaknesses to cover.
Welcome to the suck.
For starters, the raise and drop times are awful. The L118A by default will drop in 800 milliseconds. For a sniper, this is average, but in the grand scheme, that's really slow. You're going to rely heavily on your secondary for close quarter fights. Consider using a pistol or sleight of hand pro. Handguns get the quick drop feature, and sleight of hand pro cuts your switch speeds in half. Either option helps counter this weakness. As for your raise time, it's even worse. The L118 raises in 1.2 seconds. All I can say is ouch. That's one of the slowest raise times in the game. You can argue this stat doesn't matter, but still, that's a really long time to wait for your weapon to switch. To make matters worse, your ADS speed isn't any better. You get the standard sniper aim down sight time clocking in at 400 milliseconds. Quick draw is almost mandatory. You need a quick aim down sight speed if you're going to keep up with the folks carrying automatic assault rifles.
Automatic rifles? Who in God's name has automatic rifles?
Sadly, things just keep getting worse when we look at the reloads. By default, the L118 refills its magazine in 3.03 seconds, or a whopping 4.30 seconds if the mag was completely empty. Sadly, you can't do much of a reload cancel. Sleight of hand or extended mags will be your only options to ease the pain. I realize I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but again, the story for the L118 keeps getting worse when we look at the recoil. The gun kicks a lot after each shot when aimed down the sight. The recoil profile features a value of 30 to 85 up and 70 to 75 heading right. I'm not sure if that's actually what happens in game though. A recoil profile like that would suggest predictable kick heading roughly northeast, but that doesn't happen. The L118A kicks all over the place. I've seen the gun go right, left, and up. The recoil profile shown in the strategy guide is not consistent with what we see in game. Regardless, counting the recoil profile is a center speed of 500. While this may appear to be alarmingly low, it really isn't all that important. The L118's fire rate is lethargic. You reset the gun between each shot. Still, the recoil is strong enough to make placing your second round somewhat time consuming. Kick or stability can help in this regard. Finally, the L118 doesn't have iron sights. Instead, you get a standard scope with 4.8 times zoom. You can only change this out by picking out one of several scoped attachments. Regardless, the base scope is clear and the crosshairs are clean. You shouldn't have a hard time staying on target. So, that's the stat sheet for the L118. To sum it up, the gun has huge potential since it can get a one-hit kill, but you pay for it pretty much across the board. The L118A is definitely a very unique weapon, but you can use an attachment to cater the gun more to your liking. So, let's see what you can use. ACOG scope.
Welcome to the suck.
I'm sorry, but I'm not a huge fan of the ACOG on sniper rifles. Yes, the attachment does help you be more accurate up close, you don't lose your peripheral vision when aiming down the sight, and your zoom is reduced to 2.4 time magnification. The problem is you gain a lot of idle sway, and frankly, this isn't how a sniper is meant to be used. If you really want a weapon that's good at mid-range combat, I'd say stick with an LMG or an assault rifle. Silencer. This attachment is horrible. Avoid picking it at all costs. The silencer reduces the L118's damage from 98 to 70 at all ranges. When you crunch the numbers with your body multipliers, the L118 loses its one-hit kill potential to the stomach and crotch area. You do gain the typical silencer stealth bonuses, yes, but it comes at too high a cost. If you are going to use a suppressed L118, you had better be taking your time to aim. You will almost never have time for a follow-up shot.
Aim and fire.
The only time I would ever advise using the silencer is if you're leveling up your L118 to complete the 15 kill challenge. Seriously, spare yourself the pain. Heartbeat sensor. In a word, this option is lackluster. You gain portable radar on the side of your gun, which can come in handy every once in a while. Unfortunately, Assassin is relatively popular and completely negates the attachment. You can use the heartbeat if you'd like, but personally, I say stick with other options. Extended mags. Of your 6 potential attachments, I would say extended mags is your second best choice. You up your capacity to 7 rounds per mag and increase your starting ammo loadout to 30 rounds total. Heed my warning, however. I see too many people who use this attachment and assume that you can now spam shots. That's not the case. The extra ammo is nice, but you still want to be as precise as you possibly can. Thermal scope. If this was Modern Warfare 2, I'd tell you to use the thermal in a second. Unfortunately, the days of stopping power and lightweight are gone. As we touched on back with the heartbeat sensor, Assassin is relatively popular. A large number of your opponents will be gray when you aim down the sight.
There's nothing to see.
I should also add you get the standard ACOG zoom of 2.4 magnification instead of the default 4.8 zoom. It's an odd feature, but true nonetheless. Use this attachment at your own risk. Variable zoom scope. Without a doubt, this has to be your best option on the L118. The variable zoom scope, or VZS as I call it, gives you much needed flexibility when playing with this sniper. You can fight with a magnification of 2.8, 4.8, or roughly 9 time magnification. If you know what kind of battles you're going to fight, you can better choose what zoom level you want. This attachment was one of my favorite additions back in Black Ops, and I'm glad to see the devs brought it back for Modern Warfare 3. Once you pick your attachment, the next step is picking the right perks. For the blue tier, I'm split between Blind Eye and Sleight of Hand. Blind Eye makes perfect sense on a sniper. The last thing you need is to be out lining up a shot and then BAM! You're dead because of a stray pred or a helicopter. Still, Sleight of Hand is incredibly hard to ignore, and I would argue it's your best choice overall. This perk negates your slow switch speeds and helps with the slow reloads. As for the red tier, your choice is simple. Go with Quick Draw. This perk cuts your aim down sight time in half. You need to aim down the sight as fast as you possibly can. The sooner you're on target, the sooner you can pull the trigger and get a kill. I know some folks will argue for Assassin. The logic is sound. A sniper should be stealthy, right?
Wrong!
I realize I'm beating a dead horse here, but again, I don't like Assassin in this role. You gain stealth bonuses, yes, but you also have to put up with a slower aim speed. And you sacrifice the majority of your dignity. Sometimes I will advise Assassin out of necessity, but now is not one of those times. Stick to Quick Draw. If you really want Assassin, earn it with the Specialist Strike package. Last, for your yellow tier, you've got options. Personally, I advise going with Steady Aim or Sit Rep. Steady Aim Pro gives you a quick raise time after sprinting, which is great if you play on the go. Sit Rep, on the other hand, highlights enemy equipment. You can potentially see hostile explosives from a distance and shoot them through walls. You'll notice I've left out a fairly obvious choice. Marksman is typically the first option that comes to mind. Enemies will have their names highlighted in red letters up to long distances. That sounds like a natural fit for a sniper, right? Unfortunately, Marksman comes with a catch. Assassin completely negates this ability, and as I've mentioned before, the perk is relatively popular. Because of that, Marksman is questionable at best. Still, if the enemy isn't using Assassin, then yes, go with this perk. You will definitely see opponents you would have otherwise missed. As for your proficiency, two options stand out to me as the clear-cut winners. Stability is the obvious choice. You need any and all tools that will help you get a one-hit kill. Stability makes it easier to find and then stay on target. Speed is your other option. Set ability ups your movement rate to 99%, which is great. Part of being a good sniper is getting yourself in positions to take good shots, so definitely use some speed. Finally, for your secondary, this will be dictated by what blue perk you chose. If you went with Sleight of Hand, I highly advise using the Solo MP9. This secondary is a perfect match to a sniper. You can handle close and mid-range battles with your automatic machine pistol. Still, if you go with Blind Eye, I say try out your pistol setup of choice. I found myself tinkering with the 5.7. If you feel adventurous, go with the Dirty Harry route, and leave your opponents in awe when you knock them out with a revolver.
You insist?
To round out the L118, we have one more very sad thing we need to cover. Lag. I hope this isn't a news flash. Modern Warfare 3 has some... how do I put this? Painfully obvious connection issues. Most of the time, it's just a dropped frame here or there. The game will have lag spikes from time to time. I get that. Any console game will have that problem. I'm not going to blame the developers for something they don't control. What bothers me is that every once in a while, the match will have a connection from beginning to end. Lag is your worst opponent when sniping. You're banking 100% on getting a one-shot kill. You will have moments where you think you missed the enemy, but somehow he still dies. You'll also have the exact opposite, where your crosshairs were dead on, but the game says you missed. The worst part is, there's nothing you can do about it. You'll fire so many shots at your enemy in frustration, and believe me, it'll make you feel like an ass.
Keep firing, assholes!
The only solution I know of is to leave and get a new lobby. The peer-to-peer connection in Modern Warfare 3 is normally pretty consistent, but sometimes the host selection software drops the ball and makes my blood pressure rise. Oddly though, even with all the lag issues in Modern Warfare 3, I still think it's a pleasure to play with the L118A. I'm not going to say the sniper is amazing, but I do have a fun time playing with this gun. I like sniping, because you can challenge yourself to get a one-hit kill. Maybe after watching this review, some of you will enjoy sniping too. That concludes my review of the L118A. I hope you enjoyed and that you'll join me next time, where I'll be taking a look at one of my favorite weapons of all, the M60. Until then, this is Raging Amish, checking out.